Boy, did Hugh Freeze say a lot in his press conference today before the team goes into the last scrimmage of fall camp. He's Zach Blackerby. I'm Brad Law. Thanks for starting your weekend. It's weekend time for most of you if you're watching Village Vice, and we're glad that you're with us, Zach.
Yes.
Man, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but the head coach just doesn't hold back. He is candid. He's 100% candid. And today he said some really interesting things in that presser.
Yeah, let's start with the discussion about the offensive line, which seemed like it was a public declaration of, hey, I'm going to call a few of you guys out, which I think is interesting because I think we all kind of thought that offensive line was kind of solidified. I mean, we saw the same five all spring, and we've seen the same five consistently every single day when we've been able to throughout the fall. And he comes out and he says, hey, yeah, the offensive line, like, they're really close. Yeah. They're tight.
Tightest group on the team.
Yeah, but we've got a ways to go, and they're probably my biggest worry about the offense right now, which we talk about quarterback being a worry, or are these receivers going to take that next step? We've kind of just had the conversation about the offense of like, okay, the offensive line is going to be a strength of this team. Let's see if other pieces can fit around it, or maybe we feel better about these other positions because we feel so good about the offensive line.
Yeah.
That's not what Hugh Freeze said today. In fact, he said the opposite. He said, this is my biggest worry. Yeah. The receivers are coming along. It's the offensive line. And I looked at you when he said it. We were sitting next to each other in the press conference room. And I looked at you and I'm like, all right, we're talking about that on the show today because that's just so against what we've been saying, what everybody's been saying.
Yeah, and he went on after that to call out a couple of guys who are reserves or who we all projected to be reserves.
Right.
Who we all think or thought or still think maybe could be reserves. But he called out Tyler Johnson, and he mentioned Ronan Chambers, the Akron transfer, the grad transfer, and called those guys out. So immediately I start thinking, this candid, transparent, brutally honest head coach, is he sending a message to somebody by hyping up the other guys? Is he just calling them out for their good play or their good work in practice? Or, and he also then, because, it's important what you say and what you don't say. He also then praised Connor Lew. He said, Connor's getting the calls. He's doing it. So it's almost like he was going, it ain't him.
Yeah.
But other guys on the line have got to step it up.
I'm not dissing the all-star freshman, or I guess center, sophomore now. But yeah, he says, and Connor Lew is very sharp. He's making the right call, but somehow it's not translating all the time to every position there. It's like, wow. It's like Connor's great, but other guys around him are messing up. And then, he highlights Tyler Johnson, who we assume is the third offensive tackle.
Yeah.
Ronan Chambers, who we assume is one of the next guys up in the interior. I think he played everywhere at Akron, but I think here he's going to be a guard.
Yeah.
We'll see. Could be wrong. But then he says, Brad, we're also debating Dylan Wade, where it's best for him to play. So we're still in the process of figuring that out, but we do need to compete there. I mean, I think that is just him saying into the microphone, Dylan Wade, we need more. That's what I took out of it in real time.
Well, Dylan, and that is speculation, but that's kind of part of the fun of where we are in this year. And it could be, Dylan is one of the leaders on that offensive line.
Yeah.
And,
he started at left tackle a year ago. It's
right.
A big deal.
Correct. Gunnar Britton went in. He made the move from tackle to guard, had a successful year, and Auburn ran well behind the left side of that line. And now you're asking Dylan Wade to make the same move inside to guard, maximize his ability. We don't know if that hasn't gone as smoothly as they had hoped, or is it just that, if I could offer this secondary look at it, is it that it's gone so well in the running back room and he feels good about the quarterbacks and he feels good about the receivers and he feels good about the tight ends? So somebody's got to be last on that list. And so it's not like it's not a triage type of situation, but if everybody else is competing, and if everybody else is pushing each other, you need all the guys on the offensive line to do that as well, to fit into that culture of what you're building.
Yeah. And he does say that it's been my biggest worry about the offense. He doesn't say he is worried about it. So
Yeah.
there is a difference there. But yeah, the comments specifically about Dylan Wade surprised me. That really surprised me. Let me ask you this, because he talks up Tyler Johnson.
Yeah.
Do you think that is just, he's shooting from the cuff and it's like, hey, yeah, Tyler Johnson's been good? Or do you think there's something deeper there where like he could be more than the number 3 tackle? Like, would they put him at guard for this season just to get him on the field? Like, do you think there was anything to that? Or do you think he was just saying, yeah, Tyler Johnson's been hurt and now he's back and we're really glad because he's playing well?
It's not quite the level of the too tall talk last year, because the talk about him was, you can't keep him off the field. We can't. That was literally the quote, was, we can't keep him off the field. And it became your starting right tackle. I don't know if Tyler is pushing Isavian. We didn't really hear a lot of talk about too tall today. There were no comments about him.
He didn't say anything about Percy either.
Didn't say, right. So it does lead you to, he also praised Braden Joyner and Tate Johnson later in the presser on a question about DeAndre Carter. So it does sort of feel like, again, just speculating, it does feel like the competition at the interior spots, maybe just one interior spot, I don't know, is still pretty hot, where you feel good about other spots. Maybe there's still some fire, some competitive fire left for the interior.
Yeah, I just thought that was pretty eye-opening. It's like, okay, maybe the O-line's not set in stone. I think it is. Like, I think the 5 guys that we've been talking about will ultimately be the 5 starters, but it's almost a good situation if it's not, because somebody stepped up, right?
Yeah, 1,000%. To list these 10 names as guys who either are or need to compete at a high level. We've talked a lot over the summer about how the offensive line room is so much better. It's the most transformed room over the last 2 to 3 years, without a doubt.
2 years.
And so you need the competition, and you're still doing that. You're not in your first game week of the season. You're not going through that protocol fully yet. This is the time where you can still have either straightforward battles for positions, or just push some of your leaders. See how far they can go, how hard they can compete to hold off some of those younger guys.
How many of these offensive linemen were here 2 years ago? I think it was just Tate Johnson and Jeremiah Wright.
Is Braden a redshirt sophomore, or was he a true freshman?
I have him as a redshirt freshman.
Okay. Yeah, so he wasn't here 2 years ago.
Because I think he was part of the class. He was a Harsin recruit, but I don't think he signed with Harsin. I think, because Freeze was here at that point. So kind of wild to think about.
Jeremiah Wright
and
Tate Johnson.
That's it. That's insane.
And Tate is battling to, I think we said this a couple of weeks ago, Tate's battling to be a contributor and certainly provide really important depth. A big piece of what they're doing on the depth of the O-line. He was your starting center for a game or 2 years ago.
Yeah, he's Connerly's backup, which is important. The backup center is important. And there's a chance he's probably the second or third guard off the bench if they were to need him. So, that's...
Backup center is very important. Ask the 1998 team how important a backup center.
It's just kind of wild that Tate Johnson was a starting center, and now he's like the 9th lineman on the team. It's just wild to me.
And that's not a shot at Tate. That's it.
No, it's just they brought in some studs.
Yeah. Evidence of how that's a completely transformed room.
No question. So Hugh Freeze, the way he's talking about these receivers now, Brad, he's talking about them the same way Auburn fans are. Let's jump into that in just a second on today's Village Vice, Brad.
Speaking of Auburn fans, Barners. Yeah. Hey, I've got mine too. I love it. I've got another one, but this one's probably the favorite. You can get a hat just like this. You can get a hat with that logo that Zach has.
That's right.
You can search all of their excellent designs. These are creative people. These are wonderful blue-collar, hardworking people with Auburn connections. They either went to Auburn, grew up in Auburn, love Auburn.
Yep.
So, if you love Auburn and you want to buy stuff high quality from people who also love Auburn, basically Barners, making stuff for Barners, Go to barnersupply.com. Use our promo code Village Vice all together.
Yes.
Village Vice at checkout. You're going to save 15%. You're going to love it. And I'm telling you, we see the numbers. We see your response. Every single show that goes out, more and more people are hopping on and they're buying really quality Auburn stuff from barnersupply.com. Check it out.
Yep. Be sure to check it out. All right. So the way Freeze is talking about these receivers, I mean, it really sounds like, we have fans come up to us and they're just so excited about the season. They want to talk about football. They're talking about the receivers. And like they say the same thing and they sound the same way when they talk about them, like Freeze does or did Friday morning at his presser. And I mean, you talk about the transformation of the linemen, the offensive line room. I mean, the transformation of this wide receiver room in the last 8 months has been it's been insane.
Yeah.
It's been insane. And I mean, he can't quit talking about the 4 true freshmen. And of course, Auburn football social media team grabbed it because it's a great quote. He just candidly says, like, yeah, we hit on all 4 of these freshmen. It's like, yes, you did. And you're saying the same thing that Auburn fans are. You can tell how excited he is to have Bryce and Perry and Cam and Malcolm. So obviously that's cool. If you're part of the barnauburn.com, which if you're not, you should be, you would have known this yesterday, but I put a note in there saying, hey, it was the best. It was the best day of the offense so far. And Freeze said that exactly at his presser, how Thursday's practice was the best for the offense so far this camp. And probably since his time being here, probably. So he credited Sam Jackson, his best day. But Brett, I mean, he talks up the 4 freshmen, of course, and then Sam Jackson. He KLS is limited because of his ankle, but then he highlights. Was it Frazier who made it a tight?
Brandon Frazier, a one-handed catch. He said, because he made it a point to say, and it's the tight ends too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then obviously, then Camden Brown was the other one. It's just like he lists them one after the other, and it's just insane. And where we are compared to where we were not that long ago.
No doubt. And here's what he said about Sam Jackson. Said maybe his best day so far. And he said about Cam Brown, a really, really good day. And the way he said it sort of led me to believe that it wasn't just like, all right, he ran good routes and had a couple of catches. Something about the way he said it made me think that, you know what this is? This is why you build a room. This is why even if you're only going to if you don't have more than 4 guys catch 20 passes for you in a season, but you still need 8 or 9 guys in the room because the competition makes everybody better. Your number 8 receiver is going to push maybe your number 5 receiver in a random Wednesday practice to have a better day. And your number 5 receiver in turn is going to be better and push your number 3 or number 2 receiver to have a better practice on a random Wednesday. Right. And all of that just makes your team better. And it sounds to me like the cohesion of the offense, the competition in the wide receiver room, especially the guys who stayed, the Caleb Burtons and Cam Browns, those guys who stayed.
He eventually mentions Caleb Burton too.
Yeah.
Took him a while, but he got there. Yep.
All these guys who stayed made the decision. They go, we know who's coming. We know this receiver room is getting a lot more talented. We know the 2 veterans are coming in from Georgia State and Penn State. Mm-hmm. But we're competing, and they're actively competing every day in practice. And it's being noticed by everybody who sees practice.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention Robert Lewis, who may lead them all in catches or receiving yards this year. So, and he always talks about him and KLS through the lens of like being a leader. I think Camden Brown's probably in that too. He doesn't get as much credit, but he's always like first in line in the drills and stuff. So I think that matters too.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good pickup.
All right. Yeah. Interesting note. Interesting comment about the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I think there could be a little bit of a debate or discussion, and we want you guys involved too. So that's coming up right here on Village Vice. If you look at Brad, you're like, okay, Brad, you're always handsome. But there's something going on today where you look just a little bit better. And it's what he's wearing. So that's some Roback gear. Yeah, it's Roback. It's Roback. I wore my Roback hoodie last night You're wearing yours today. We should have matched. We should have matched. That was a lack of communication on our part. But they've got the best hoodies ever. They've got the best collared shirts ever. I love my Rowback quarter zips. I've got 2 of them now. Strongly recommend you check out rowback.com. And don't worry, you're not paying full price. Use
Nope.
promo code VICE20. You get 20% off your order. And I promise you're going to love it. They have an Auburn collection now. We put a link to that in the barnauburn.com. So be sure to check that out as well. But yeah, rowback.com. Use promo code VICE20. You will not regret it.
Let me ask you, where were you last night that you wore your Rowback?
Went up to Birmingham to party with the next round guys.
Yeah, what a flex.
They were having their celebration. It was their anniversary of them launching several years ago, and it was a blast. It was really, really fun to hang out with everybody.
It was 90-something degrees outside, and you were wearing long sleeves from Rowback. It's 90-something degrees today.
Yeah, it's pretty thin. It's very comfortable. It's very, very comfortable.
Their hoodies are so good that you'll want to wear them even when it's 90 degrees.
That's true. That's true. All right, so Freeze was asked, like, okay, what's the timeline of you kind of giving more reps instead of all 4 quarterbacks, just 2 as you kind of get into the season? And it sounds like we're close. And he says it seems unanimous between him and the rest of the offensive staff in regards to who's going to be QB2. But he hadn't told the quarterbacks yet, which is the right move. So he's like, I'm not going to tell y'all yet. I'll tell y'all next week.
He did say that directly, that he would tell us next week.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, like, is it Hank? Is it Holden? Because when you look at the pecking order of guys, they're still going in the same order. It's still Peyton, Holden, Hank, Walker. But when you look at the scrimmage from earlier, or I guess from last weekend, Holden went in second, but Hank got some more of the reps with the ones. So it's like, who is it? Yeah. Who do you think it is, Brad?
Oh, I don't have the slightest idea, because I can't tell from what I've seen in practice. I've seen they've rotated the guy. Like, sometimes Peyton's running with 2s, and even at this even though he's the clear-cut starter. So no, I don't have the slightest idea. I would love to know what our villagers think. Would love to see in the comments who you think the number 2 guy is. There's no question that Hank's, like, deep ball is just pretty. All right.
Yeah.
It's like what Zach says about himself when he looks in the mirror. It's just so pretty. Holden
only when I'm wearing a Rowback.
Holden has a really strong arm, no doubt about that. Which guy? But it's not like, if that's all you're watching, if either one of those things are all you're taking into consideration, you're doing it wrong. You evaluate it wrong. There's so much emphasis on, and he mentioned it in the presser today, what Peyton excels at is, all right, get them out of the wrong play. Get them into the right play. Set them up with a chance to succeed before the ball is even snapped. And then you get into decision-making and, that kind of thing once the bullets are flying, so to speak.
If you're a coach and you're making this decision, do you look at it solely off of, like, what's happened this offseason? And how much of it do you weigh into? I mean, because you and I say all the time, bowl games don't matter, and that's the only time Hank's played. So, like, do those reps matter with what he did in the 4th quarter against Maryland? Like, do those reps matter? And then you also look at what Holden's done anytime he's been in. Not a great spot. He has not been in a good spot to succeed. Like, Auburn has not set him up for success, but he hasn't looked good when he's been in.
Right.
How much do you carry their limited reps? They've both been limited into this decision, because, like, it does seem like when the lights were on, Hank responded better than Holden, but there's so many variables and, like, caveats to that where it's like, does that even matter? Do we even really know?
It's so different than, like, let's say he had gone in the 4th quarter at LSU last year, or the 4th quarter at Texas A&M last year.
Yeah.
Man, those bowl games are just so many. You couldn't run a science experiment in a bowl game because there are too many of those variables. There just aren't any constants. And that game, the way it played out, the defense Maryland was playing in the 4th quarter on that drive was not the same as the defense they were playing in the first quarter. So even in the game itself, it was a very different scenario. I don't know. I think with a new offensive coordinator and a new mindset and outlook on the offense, you kind of take, and new position players, new wide receivers, all of that being different, to judge them based on anything before the spring would be like adding a new drink to your cup before you washed it out. Like you finish your coffee and then you want to put
that works. It just depends what the other beverage is.
It depends on what it is, yes. But I don't think in this scenario it worked. I think it would kind of be just like that analogy. It might kind of work. It may not be so bad.
Yeah.
But just wash it out. Just wash out the cup and start fresh.
Sure. Look at you. That was pretty good.
Thanks.
Did that just come to you?
Yes.
How about that?
King of analogies. Sometimes.
We are in the presence of greatness with stuff like that. Well done.
Get out of here.
Well done. I think it's Hank.
You think so?
I think Hank is QB2.
All right. Give me your case.
Solely talking to people that go to practice, it sounds like Hank has had a lot of wow moments, and Holden is just I hear more about Walker than I do Holden. And that could just be because he's new.
Yeah.
And so they feel like they need to talk about, the new guy in the room or on the roster. But I just haven't heard anything about Holden one way or the other. And that may be a good thing. But I think with what Hugh Freeze wants in a quarterback, I think Hank has more of it than Holden does. So that's just my gut reaction. Yeah. And also, like, the defensive guys that I've talked to seem to really respect Hank more than the other options.
Yeah.
This is based off of folks that I've talked to. So we'll see. We'll see how Coach Freeze and his staff views it. It was interesting because Freeze said they're all on the same page. Like, it's a unanimous decision. So to me, that says it's not close.
Right.
And if it's not close, I think we would have heard more about Holden.
That's probably, I get that. Yeah, I get that. And I like that we'll know for sure in a couple of days. I like that, he's going to talk to the quarterbacks. And listen, whether you're the second guy, third guy, or the fourth guy, there's a lot of worse. We talked about this, I think, last week off camera. There's a lot of worse things to be than a backup quarterback, even third or fourth on the depth chart, on campus at Auburn University. Your quality of life is still pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I will push back on that a little bit. Like, I think it's going to bother some guys more than others. I think some guys are fine just being on a roster, being, king of the campus, whatever. And then I think there's guys that are super competitive and have that it factor that you want, that moxie that I think it'll tick them off.
Sure.
So we'll see. We don't know who's who in this situation, but we'll see. Yeah, let us know who you think. Who is QB2? Let us know in the comments down below. Brad, I think that about does it for today's show.
It does. Thanks, everybody, for watching, for subscribing, for visiting thebarnauburn.com. Remember, until next time, everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.